And subhanAllah, that's something that, whether you look through the books of history or the books of tazkiyah, the books of spirituality, you find that there is a connection between the way that a person at the top behaves and how that translates into the collective character of a people, the collective environment and righteousness or lack of righteousness, right? So you find the saying of Umar ibn Abdul Aziz, rahimahullah ta'ala, that when Umar ibn Abdul Aziz was in charge, when he became the Khalifa, that the wolves would not attack the sheep because he established such a character of justice that even wolves would not attack sheep. And we know that when him returns, when Isa alayhi salam returns, the Prophet ﷺ told us that even the animals, right? A child would play with a python and not have to worry. That justice would be established even across the animals. Now, before I go any step further, I am not suggesting Joe Biden is Umar ibn Abdul Aziz or Jesus. Let's be very, very clear for a moment, inshaAllah ta'ala. I'm talking about the concept that existed then. The reality is that to much of the world, it doesn't matter who the American president is, because the way they know America is through bombs and violence and drones, no matter whether it's a Democrat or a Republican. So we will have our own issues to deal with if he indeed becomes president, and it's not إِذَا جَاءَ نَصْرُ اللَّهِ وَالْفَتْحِ. We have to think deeply and we have to challenge and deal with evolving circumstances as they come. However, one thing is for sure, that the unique foulness and vulgarity of the last 4 years has led to a collective social decay. The way that people talk to each other, you can barely use social media, and you can see the way that people have become in the way that they talk to each other. And that's not all the fault of one man. But when you have to hide your children away from political debates because you don't want them to see the foulness and the vulgarity and just the nature of the way things have become, the descent of basic common dignity, that's something. Now, I want to start from a higher level of this though. There are things that we learn from the Quran and the Sunnah about the nature of fitna as a whole, the nature of confusion and chaos as a whole, that are just so telling and they are timeless. And some of those things is that behind every fitna, even when there are noble slogans, there are lowly agendas. When fitna arises in society, when chaos and confusion arises in society, there are lowly agendas that spark fitna, and sometimes under noble banners, people get taken on a ride. That is true from the very start of man. SubhanAllah, I was talking to an uncle in Jordan a few years ago. This isn't to put Jordan on the spot, by the way. This is just the nature of conversation. And we were talking about the original story of Adam alayhi salam and Iblis. And he said, why does Iblis hate me so much? What did I do to him? So subhanAllah, what made Iblis say that I'm going to take all of you on a ride? Your entire descendants, I'm going to ruin all of them and spoil all of them. Why? Because he felt like his degree in Jannah was taken away. He felt like his position, and again, please don't read modern day politics into my stories here, all right? I'm talking about character here, all right? But his degree, his favor was taken away, and it was like, you know what? I'm going to destroy all of them. He could care less about everybody. Everybody, all of the children of Adam alayhi salam, I'll lead them all astray. They can all go to hell. That's the way he's going to approach us. I'm going to lead them all to hellfire with me. That is what you'd call narcissism at an added level. We call narcissism nafs. Ego gone violent. And subhanAllah, throughout history, you find wars that have been waged. Wars. People killing each other in the millions, the thousands, the hundreds of thousands, the millions, over what? Over egos. And then the egos inspire some sort of politics of their time, and then it just becomes chaos, and people start to get at each other's throats. And you have people that get caught up in the confusion and in the chaos, and they don't realize what's happening. And it all comes down to what? The fitna of people that do not care about anything but themselves. Because a narcissist is subject to his nafs, says, you know what, forget about everybody. That's what corporate greed is, that's what dictatorship is, that's how every Fir'aun has lived, that's how every tyrant has lived. And by the way, I want us to reflect on ourselves, each and every single one of us. When you see signs of hypocrisy, when you see evil becoming prevalent, you should not start to assign other people to that evil. Your first place to look has to be in your own heart, in your own life, and in the way that you act.